So, is there a cheat code in college football, and not the cheating I'm talking about from not that long ago, Matt DeBerry? Let's stay focused here. EA Sports has put out a new video game with which I'm sure all of y'all at home are playing in your mom's basement. And what I'm wondering is, someone described Georgia as having a cheat code, like you don't even have to put the cheat code in, Matt. Uh, but in real life, is it fair to describe what Kirby and company have done as having a cheat code?
Maybe in the video game, because there should be a lot of guys in the 90s. It should be a full roster. If one of your guys gets hurt, you could plug a guy in just like in real life. So if it's accurate, it should be a very talented, very deep roster that EA Sports has given them. At first, if we're talking about reality, I would say Glenn Schumann is Georgia's real cheat sheet, but it's hard to have, coaches in a game when you're actually playing the game. But I would have said Brock Bowers would have been a cheat code if he were able to be in the game last year. But it'll be interesting. I think Carson Beck is one of the top ranked guys. I'm sure Malachi Starks, Michael Williams. I know when I played the game, I'd be the defensive end. So it would be nice to have a guy like Michael Williams coming off the edge and I could control him. So I think Michael Williams, Ryan, could be the cheat code in this year's game.
Yeah, I think that the video game actually is not an awful representation of what it's like in real life because when Georgia goes up against an East Tennessee or a UMass or something like that, it should be a beatdown, and it almost always is. And it's like that in the video game. If you were to play with two different teams, I mean, unless someone is just way better at the video game, if one team's way better, it's way easier. So I think that representation is actually pretty good. Went to pre-order the video game last night and it wouldn't let me, so having trouble there already.
It's amazing it's this
Yeah.
popular. We played it in the '90s, and I used it in a computer. I don't know if the processing of a PlayStation at the time could handle EA Sports. Maybe it did, but we used computers, and we used the Rice Owls for those of you keeping
Okay.
score at home, and we were very very successful. The schedule sucked, but there wasn't a cheat code then. But I think when you look, Ryan, at what Georgia's done over the last, they've lost 3 games this decade. I think if my math's right, um, they have the best record. They have the most national championships this decade. Um, it's not a cheat code, but they're definitely. I mean, well, they're the best program. I mean, and whereas in the past, I think in college football you really could cheat to get to where you are today. I don't think that's as possible anymore with NIL and so forth.
I think we talk about which are the best jobs in college football, and there are reasons for that. Location matters. Georgia's a very talented state. The facilities at Georgia matter. The history of Georgia matters. It's not cheating, but it is playing on an easier mode if you're a Kirby Smart and you're coaching at a Georgia versus if you're coaching at Clemson. I mean, it's what Clemson. Yeah, I can't believe I brought Clemson into this, but what they did in the teens and winning those national championships, that was not normal for them. But at a Georgia, when you have that infrastructure, it should be a little bit easier. So I don't know if cheat code's the right word, but I think that as hard as Kirby Smart goes, it is easier when you're at a place like Georgia.
I will say, I think one cheat code might be, in the recruiting part of the game, every five-star tight end is going to have Georgia high on its list, right? Every five-star linebacker could be a little easier for the program like Georgia to do that. So, in the recruiting aspect of it, if you're playing with Georgia as the dynasty, the recruiting part of the game could be a little easier, especially if it's accurate to where there are so many in-state prospects who are 5 and 4 stars in reality. If that transfers over to the game, and you're that dynasty with the in-state Georgia Bulldogs, it could be easier to build a 5-star roster year after year after year on the recruiting trail. And that was one of my favorite parts of the game is, having your dynasty and building the roster and finding those 5 stars. So I think that part will be really interesting as well.
So as we get forward, we're not that far from media days. I wish I had a cheat code for that. And I don't know if y'all find that as funny as I do.
I did. That was nice.
If
Yeah.
you've ever walked into the bathroom with Ed Orgeron leaving, you know what I'm talking about, and I have experienced that on 2 different occasions actually in Birmingham or Hoover, whatever. Um, I think it's in terms of cheat code. I know we're kind of maybe sticking on that frame a little too much, but um, there isn't one. It doesn't exist, right? I mean, Matt, I think that we've talked. You talked about recruiting a second ago. This is a day-to-day thing at Georgia. They're going out and trying to get the best guys that they can get, and then they try from there to develop them. There's all sorts of stuff that's inside their program, from nutrition to learning how to cook to development, medical, all of it. It's not a cheat code, right? I mean, they're just doing the work. It's that simple, and everybody else is too, for the record. But Georgia's just had more success lately.
Yeah, this is 8 years in the making with Kirby Smart. And when he came in, he had a plan, and it's all about the details. And he was going to have his hand in the strength and conditioning, the nutrition program. Everyone he hires them for a reason. The recruiting staff, the people that help facilitate these official visitors, they do a great job of making sure these recruits and their families feel comfortable. Academics. I mean, this is a place that really does check all the boxes as far as resources go. And he knew that, and he's taking full advantage of every resource they have, and he's doing it in the correct way as they've won 2 out of 3 national championships. And it still kind of feels early on in the Kirby Smart tenure. He could be at Georgia for a long, long time. And, we say it all the time. He's built a monster, and that machine is rolling right now, Ryan. And it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. I know they lost the game that they couldn't lose last year, but this program's not falling off anytime soon. They're number 1 in the country right now. Could be again next year, year after that. They're always going to be in the hunt for a national championship as long as Kirby Smart is there, because he laid the foundation 8 years ago, and it's just going to continue.
Yeah, you referenced the SEC championship game from a few months ago. I was going to do the exact same thing. We can say it's a cheat code, and you can do all the right things almost all the time or all the time, and then you can lose a game like that, and all of a sudden the hopes and dreams you had for the end of the season, it's just not going to look like that, and you end up in Fort Lauderdale. So it just, and we've done that twice, but I don't think that there is a blueprint, and it's working really hard, and things kind of falling into place and everything like that. But at the end of the day, winning the game matters more, whether you have the recruiting class or the coaching staff and all of that. But I do think that it's the standard. I just did a video about that. That's go back to talking about what the standard in college football is. It's winning, and that's what Georgia's done better than anyone in the last 4 years.
Yeah, nobody. I say this in the least disrespectful way towards this place as possible. Nobody wants to wind up in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, I just why.
It wasn't bad when there was a real game on the line. They treated us pretty well that first time when Michigan came down there.
When there were things on the line. The room was bigger. There was a server.
Disaster. it was.
The real problem is you don't want to end up in between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, because that's no man's land, and that's really where it's all at.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst stretches of highway probably in the country.
Yeah, South Florida is something else. But I think in terms of Georgia probably like to wind up this year in Miami, because it's one of the semifinals. Yeah. Of course, it could be you could be in the Cotton. Is that right? I can't remember which one it is. No, it's Phoenix. So I don't know which one it is, but anyway, Miami is definitely a semifinal. But I don't think it's anything other than doing the hard work all the time, Ryan. I think it's probably pretty boring, actually, after a while. I mean, you go up, you do the same single thing every single time, but I mean, to me, consistency is perfection. You have to, if you're not doing something constantly. I saw something about Kobe was saying something the other day. Of course, he's passed away, but he was saying, the only way to he's not nervous during end of game situations because he's done it a million times. I cannot recall the last time a Georgia player looked or seemed nervous in any situation, honestly.
No, I mean, they drill all those situations over and over. And now I assume that most programs drill a lot of different situations, but
like you said, Spencer Rattler.
Well, some people just look scared. Some people, maybe you don't know if they're ready for the moment until that actually comes. But
I think it took Stetson Bennett a full 1 quarter in that national championship game when he was dropping the ball when he was running and getting sacked on that. Yeah, I thought Stetson looked a little nervous to start that championship game, and played better and better, and we all know what he did in the fourth quarter. But other than that, it's really hard to think of something.
Yeah, I mean it does matter getting ready, but there's no cheat code. You just have to do it every single day.